The Honourable Minister, Peter Dunn.
Mr Speaker, one of the principles on which United Future was founded was to promote a better deal for New Zealand families, and that's exactly what we see in this budget, coming after many years of challenge as the country confronted and then overcame the obstacles posed by the global financial crisis. We do not realise the extent to which that crisis impacted around the world on the standards of living of various populations. And it is true to now observe and even contrast with our near neighbour Australia. The impact in this country has been far less because of the good stewardship over the last 6 years of the current Minister of Finance, and today, in a budget which brings in a small but significant surplus and forecasts more to come, the pathway is laid for a long-awaited dividend to be paid to New Zealand families. I am particularly pleased about a number of aspects of the budget, especially the increase from 6 to 13 for free doctors' visits and free prescriptions. We know, Mr Speaker, according to all of the evidence available, that our most vulnerable people are our young people, our very young people, and anything that we can do to enhance their access to health services when they need them, to make it easier for their parents to take them there day or night to get that care, has to be important, and I applaud the decision to extend free medical care up to the age of 13 for those children. And I hope that we see a significant uptake of that policy, and I look forward down the track to improved health status occurring as a result. Similarly, Mr Speaker, the $156 million more invested in early childhood education. That is a significant step forward and recognises the reality that many children today, indeed most children, will be in some form of early childhood education. It's consistent with the government's long-term commitment of moving to around 98% of children in early childhood education by about the year 2020. So they are good moves, Mr Speaker. So too is the extension to paid parental leave. We know the arguments, we've had them back and forward across this chamber for a long time, that the opportunity for parents to bond with their new children in those early months is critical to their future development. In just the same way as access to good health care through the medical system is important, so too the time that a parent is able to spend at home with a new child is important as well, and the extension announced in the budget is a positive step forward in that regard. As an ideal, United Future would like to see us move over time to 52 weeks paid parental leave, because that is the ultimate opportunity to provide a good start for our children and a good positive future for them to embark upon. Mr Speaker, if you look at a number of other moves in the budget, they are all progressive. They are all about building a pathway down which the country can advance for the future. I welcome, for instance, the additional transport investments. Transport infrastructure is a huge issue, not just for our major cities, but for many of our families in getting about and doing the job that mums and dads do with kids day in, day out, school out, weekends, etc. And so having good networks, having good ways of getting around our major cities is an important part of strengthening the role and the importance of families in the New Zealand framework, and I applaud the Minister for what he's been able to achieve in that regard. In the Wellington area, we have our own range of projects. We look forward to proceeding very soon, and I'm sure the Minister knows exactly to what I'm referring. Mr Speaker, there are some issues, though, for the future that do need to be addressed. There has been the veiled hint around this week's budget announcements that tax cuts for the future are now a possibility. And I applaud that. I think there is huge scope for a number of significant changes to the tax arrangements for New Zealand families. I would like to see a top tax rate for top income earners of 30 cents in the dollar. I'd like to see a middle income tax rate of 20 cents in the dollar and a low income tax rate of 10 cents in the dollar, a progressive 10, 20, 30 rate. The threshold points can be developed as we look at income rates over time. But setting that goal, I think, is a very important part of not just giving a dividend to New Zealand families, but also pitching us very competitively with other nations, and particularly our neighbour across the Tasman, and would give us a huge advantage in that respect. I also think in the context of family income and family support, and this argument's been had a little earlier in the year, that there is merit in picking up again the United Future bill, which still sits on the order paper of this House regarding income sharing. When the Labor Party earlier this year, with its Best Start policy, proposed assisting families with a household income of up to $150,000 a year, and then introduced a raft of exclusions that most families would not qualify, it reminded me that income sharing, which has its benefit of families earning up to $140,000 per year as a household, is a much simpler and more straightforward way to go. It's a fairer way of recognising the equal contribution that both parents make to raising their children, and I think that is a matter that now is an idea whose time has come and ought to be pursued more fully, and I look forward to that being part of the tax debate that we will have, inevitably as a result of the good economic conditions being foreshadowed by this budget. Mr. Speaker, at the other end of the scale, my colleague from Epsom referred earlier to the issue of retirement. I take a different view. It's important, though, that we do have an ongoing discussion and debate about the way in which we support people who are in their retirement picking up their pension income. United Future will continue to promote its flexi super policy, where the basic age of entitlement for New Zealand superannuation will remain 65, but where people will have a choice of a lesser rate from the age of 60 or a higher rate if they defer to the age of 70. And we would supplement that by making KiwiSaver a compulsory savings scheme. So what you would have in the future, Mr. Speaker, moving forward, is most people, and the figure in the budget today was 80-odd%, in a KiwiSaver scheme, guaranteed a payment from KiwiSaver at the age of 65, the possibility, if they choose to do so, of picking up their New Zealand superannuation at 65, but also having the capacity to bridge that, if you like, by going earlier at a lesser rate, and therefore having a dignified retirement income platform. Mr. Speaker, that is a popular policy. What it does is recognise that the choice of retirement income rests not with the state to determine the age of eligibility, but with the individual to make that choice for themselves. And what the Labor Party and those who argue for a higher rate are effectively doing is telling working people that they have to work longer to get their pension. Mr. Speaker, what they are doing is telling people that they have to work longer to get the pension to which they say they are entitled. Flexi Super actually puts the choice into the individual's hands about how they make their retirement plans, and that is a good thing that most New Zealanders support and that we want to see progress. Mr. Speaker, I spoke yesterday in the general debate about some changes that could be made in the longer term in the tertiary education area, particularly in terms of encouraging entrance from families where previously there has not been a history of tertiary education, but also looking to whether we can deal with the issue that we now have about significant tertiary education costs through fees. I think there are some other things we should look at in the future, Mr. Speaker, as well in terms of our conservation management. I'm particularly keen to see us establish a national planting program along the riparian strips of flowing waterways to prevent erosion, to help clean up those waterways, to get us back to a swimming standard for most of our rivers. I also think that there's scope for establishing a national pilot program for hunting and trapping for possums for fur purposes as part of our national pest control strategy. But the key point about all of these things, Mr. Speaker, is we have to earn the income to pay for our dreams. And what today's budget, returning to surplus, is all about is demonstrating in an ongoing way this country's capacity now to earn its income, to pay its way, and that then in turn creates the leeway to give opportunity for some of our dreams to be implemented. The contest of ideas in the future will not be around this degree of pessimism versus that degree of pessimism. It will be about optimism and hope for the future, and the pathway and the platform that the Minister has laid in this budget means we can constructively and positively look to the best options for our families in terms of New Zealand moving forward. United Future will campaign this election on the points that I've outlined in this address this afternoon. We look forward to engaging with the public of New Zealand and with other political parties around those ideas, and to, when this Parliament reconvenes, being in a position to advance them given the platform laid in this very laudable budget this afternoon.
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this debate be now adjourned.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The debate is adjourned and set down for resumption next sitting day.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, I move that urgency be accorded the introduction and passing of the budget measures for financial support for new